Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to this night-ending bonus upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go, and folks, they definitely matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into this night-ending bonus, shall we? Many of you know that have been with the channel. I don't watch other cryptid or paranormal channels. Not because I don't think, or not because I think I'm better than anyone or anything like that. Just because I like to do my own research. I don't want to get inspiration from someone else, this, and that, and get jaded, you know. I have one friend in the community that has a YouTube channel, Dark Waters. James is probably one of my closest friends in the world, like real friend, not YouTube friend. And but what I do watch on YouTube when I'm not researching is, one, music videos, heavy metal music videos, Deftones, Mr. Bungle, Melvins, Phantomas, you name it. And then I love true crime. I love a channel called Deadbug, just really funny, awesome guy. And I've touched bases with Deadbug. But an inspiration of mine is Shaun Attwood. He and I connected about 2 years ago. And it was honestly a dream come true because he truly is an inspiration. He just, you know, messed up hardcore in his life at one point and then turned his life around. And now is just a huge YouTube channel, just a monster of a channel. And even though he doesn't do cryptid or paranormal, he does delve into a lot of different things. He'll interview people that talk about cryptids, talk about paranormal, talk about deep underground military bases, talk about Kennedy assassination, talk about things like Bill Cooper, Phil Schneider, yada, yada. I interviewed Shaun because it was something that I've always wanted to do, was just shoot the breeze with him. And I got the opportunity to. And then 6 months later, his co-host interviewed me about the, air quotes, animal attacks. Corey Godsey, Brenda Hamilton, Christopher Whiteley, Tony Aarons, Amber Miller. Keep going. I could keep going all day. They're truly amazing for me to even be able to connect with somebody like that. And I'm going to share those with you right now. I'm going to share the co-host interviewing me first, and then my interview with Mr. Shaun Attwood.
Jeff, good evening, sir. How are you?
Stephen, how are you? Nice to
I'm wonderful. Thank you very much. Look at that wonderful piece of art there behind you for our viewers who can see. What am I looking at there?
Yeah, a subscriber painted that for me and sent it to me. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Well, please do tell. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
That's great. That's great. Slight delay, but I'm sure we'll manage to work through it. So maybe you can just take a moment, Jeff, just tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel. What does it focus on?
Well, I started out my channel on pretty much cryptid encounters, reptilian, Bigfoot, Dogman, and just like narrating encounters. And then I started to kind of get more fascinated with the whole community, and I started to see things that were happening in the community, people being attacked, a lot of just, the disappearances in national parks, this and that, and it really fascinated me. Stayed in the field of narrating and interviewing people with their encounters, but then I started to investigate these animal attacks, quote, animal attacks. There's one that just happened last year, and to me, it's a cover up because it happened in Tennessee, in Cott County, Tennessee. And April 1st, there was a gentleman attacked, and Tony Aarons was his name. He was found pretty much dismembered on Jimtown Road. Well, at midnight, someone had spoken to him at 9:30 at night, 3 hours prior, and he was fine. So this guy miraculously gets shredded, like his soft tissue in his stomach.
Just
his
froze
legs,
up a little bit there,
arms.
right at the good stuff from the sounds of it. Can you hear me, Jeff? Are you back with us?
Yeah. I
Excellent.
can hear you.
I think the last word I may have heard there was shredded. So please don't keep us waiting.
This Tony Aarons guy he was supposedly, he lived in a homeless encampment at the end of this road called Jimtown Road, and it's a very rural area, and it's poor, a very poor community down there. Good people, but not a lot of money. So this guy is found, his leg is pretty much hanging off his arm, his soft stomach tissue is torn up, and he's a guy named Charles Owensby finds him and calls 911. Well, they kind of dismiss it as a dog attack. Even though there's no proof of any dogs, they're found on a dirt road and scuff marks, this and that. Then in July, they kind of just they do like a 2-page write-up on it in the media, and I'm like, that's weird, like there's no closure to it. So then in July, a girl named Amber Miller was attacked in the same location, literally same location, Jimtown Road. And she was found by a Good Samaritan who happened to be driving down the road. There were 3 dogs that were with her. They were licking her wounds. They weren't biting her, they were licking her. And she had was brought to the hospital. She herself was torn apart, arms, legs. It was a very, very vile and grotesque attack. She ended up dying in the hospital. Well, they said that, these dogs were, because there was DNA evidence on the dogs where the blood that they had been licking. If this Good Samaritan was able to walk up and save this girl, anybody who has had dogs and have, seen dog attacks or anything, they know once a dog attacks somebody, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop biting and tearing. It's then start licking this girl. And then if this guy comes in and tries to stop it, they're going to attack him as well. Well, that didn't happen. They just kind of parted way, let the guy take the girl, put her in the truck, and bring her to the hospital. So she passes away, and then the guy named Charles Owensby is labeled the culprit of it. They pretty much slandered him. He was a black gentleman, poor, and they ended up putting a warrant out for to search evidence for his house and his ex-wife's house, which is like 5 miles down the road. They incarcerate him for a minor bit of marijuana, and in America, I mean, it was anywhere between, I think it was like less than a half an ounce of weed. So I mean, that's in America nowadays, it's nothing, that's a slap on the wrist. He shouldn't have been incarcerated. They incarcerate him, and they do a really thorough investigation on this guy. They take his dog, they dig up a dog that had been dead for like 6 months, to get DNA from a dog that had been dead during the attacks, so then they release him on $1,000 bond, and they pretty much just responsible. He's responsible. Well, there's no evidence of him being responsible. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is weird. These dogs didn't do this, obviously. And I start looking into it more and more. And then during Owensby's release, he's in his trailers, and the public, not the public, but the community, like community workers, are hassling him. And one night there was a shot at his trailer. Someone had taken and shot a gun at his trailer. Well, he called the police department and said, hey, someone just shot at my trailer. And it would have been where he was lying down. Police came and did an investigation. They said, we can't find a shell casing. And that bullet hole's old. Well, how do they know the bullet hole is old? Because they were prior. And anybody who goes to the rifle range or who is in law enforcement or anything knows that, if you're going to assassinate somebody, clean up your brass. That's what you pick up your brass. You don't leave evidence behind. So that was a big thing.
Just to interject, what comes across very clear is obviously you do not buy the official narrative of dog attacks.
No.
I think you used, many of our viewers may have noticed you used air quotes earlier when you said animal attacks. So it's clear you're very skeptical of it. You don't accept the official stories from the police. That sort of like invites the question, what do you think it is? What do you think is responsible for these sort of attacks?
I like the guest prior, I have been researching and looking into Bigfoot and a kind of offshoot of a Bigfoot. People in America have seen, and in England, called the Dogman. It's a hominid, and it's a very violent creature. Some people think that it's related to a Bigfoot. I think it possibly may be an offshoot or something entirely different. There was a subscriber of mine had taken his motorcycle down there and rode down and ended up talking to someone from that homeless encampment. And he's talking to him, and the guy said, had a decent conversation with him. And then he said, yeah, be careful on your way out. He goes, these things will come out of the woods and take you off your motorcycle. He didn't say what, but almost like insinuating, hey, there's something out in these woods that will take you off of your motorcycle. There had been large canine tracks in the dirt or dust, the first Tony Aaron's attack. And there's been multiple attacks like this throughout our country. And people have been seeing these creatures in these vicinities. And I think it is one of these creatures. I think there's multiple of them, just like I think there's multiple Bigfoot. I think that to answer a question that you had asked the previous guest, I don't think people find these things because I think they're nocturnal, and I think they travel at night and they have a broad area that they roam. So yeah, that's what I think is going on.
That's a potential explanation. There's been a flurry of questions on this topic, people wanting to pick your brain on it. We have one from Easy E. They're asking, what do you think of the documentaries Hellier and Skinwalkers Ranch? I'm hoping that means more to you than me.
This watched In Search of Skinwalker Ranch and stuff. I think it's an amazing documentary. Navajo lore is powerful. It's an unexplainable thing. I've talked about it on my channel before. You've got people claiming that there's portals, people claiming that there's these large canine military involvement. It's a very sacred place. A lot of Ute Native Americans were killed in that area by Navajo, and that place is a mystery. You've got a location that said UFO, cryptid, and paranormal all in one place. There's something special about it.
What is the most compelling piece of evidence you may point people towards to help convince them that these aren't regular animal attacks?
If you look at the media, JK, I think that was his name, the dark journalist or whatever, he had said that the media works for big pharma, oil, military. We get 80% of our media from that. Our news is from big bank, big pharma, oil, military, and they just kind of feed the media what they want to hear. And the media then paints a picture of what these companies, these organizations, not companies, want them to paint. So when I look at these attacks, if there's wording that's kind of off, or let's say one of these, like, so this Tony Aaron's Amber Miller attack, you got two people that had died. Then they start painting the victims as losers or less than. They bring up drug addiction, have victims. Why are you bringing up their past? Just because they had an addiction doesn't mean that they are any less than, you know what I mean, or deserve to be attacked. The sheriff of the Cott County, Tennessee, Armando Fuentes, he had made a statement that said methamphetamine was the cause of Tony Aaron's death. And I was like, so whatever, even if it was the dog that did it, let's say the dogs did it, the dogs smelled the meth on him and they wanted to get high off his blood or something. It makes no sense. It's a lot of BS in the wording. And I have interviewed probably 500 people who have claimed to have seen some sort of Bigfoot, Dogman, reptilian is something. And it's not just people, random people. Like, I've had a sheriff from Louisiana come on and say he had seen a large like canine run across the road. He had no idea what it was. He had to turn around and go back and look for it. But by the time he had turned around, it was gone. And it kind of messed his whole night up,
So, I mean, I find it interesting what you say about the media as a whole. And I agree that it's possible and often the case that many outlets have an agenda and a bias and a sort of style and line that they toe to. So I suppose what would be stopping some sort of alternative media outlet or some independent journalists from actually exposing these people who aren't beholden to sort of, big pharma? Or
people really are aware of it. Either they're not aware of it or they don't care. It's not something that they want to care about. It's not money. The world revolves around money, and it's not a large, talking about random attacks and taking the time to really look at them. This is a file of all different attacks in America that don't make sense, that are like that Tony Aaron's Amber Miller. And that's hours and hours of researching it, and then looking at the area to see if there had been any kind of strange sightings of any kind of strange creature. There was something that just happened in Virginia. Tazewell County, Virginia is right next to Buchanan, and then right across the border is Mercer County, West Virginia, and they fit almost like a jigsaw. And there had been numerous accounts of people. There had been 8 deaths, 8 weird disappearances and deaths in the last 6 months. There was 3 guys that were found dead, all the same age, which was kind of weird. I was like, that's really, and in any kind of field, there really isn't coincidence, I don't think. But one guy was found in a kind of one of those drainage tubes that go under the road, like a culvert, and he had disappeared. The search and rescue went and looked for him like a year ago, and ironically enough, there's his body in this and I had actually called the Tazewell County, Virginia's police department, and I said, hey, how are you? My name is Jeff Nadolny. I'm an independent journalist. I'm just looking into this case. And it was Richard Timmy was the guy's name. And I said, I'd heard you found his body. And the sheriff said, yeah, there was 2 bodies in the culvert, and there was no mention of a second body in any of the media. So there's just a lot of weird business going on with the media and the government. I think they work hand in hand to keep secrets away from us, not only with this, but with UFOs, with assassinations, with a lot, and they work hand in hand together.
What do you think of a story of a beast in land between the lakes? Is that a source of pain for former residents as well?
Yeah. I'm friends with a gentleman who, his name's Tim Baker. He worked for NASA back in the 70s, and he had been researching on his own, just, as a hobby, Bigfoot accounts. And he had been, he grew up in like Alabama and like Muscle Shoals, so he's familiar with that kind of area. And there's a lot of speculation on that case. You've got a family of 4 that were supposedly torn up, and the media never covered it. But you've got people that, third party people coming and saying, I heard this, I was friends with these people. And then people tend to add on to the stories. I believe that an attack did happen there. It's been talked about for 40 years. It happened in like 1983 or 4. No one knows the exact date. And that, I believe, is because of a cover-up. I had talking to somebody who knew a park ranger there, and they had stated that, yes, the attack did happen. Mother and father and the little boy were found like 15 feet in a tree.
So I mean, this is it's interesting. It's very dark. It involves real people, real murder, real loss. And I accept you are an individual who's interested in pursuing the truth. You want to find out what has happened. I suppose on the flip side of that coin, do you ever worry about the potential distress maybe caused to the family of these victims if somebody's sort of challenging official narratives and saying there's more to this, and potentially opening old wounds for these families as well?
There was a little boy named Corey Godsey in Knott County, Kentucky. And he was 13 years old, and he was dragged up a 300 to 400 foot kind of rock side embankment, and they claimed that it was a dog. We're talking 110, 120 pound boy dragged up a cliff, which is very there was a lot of people.
Were there any witnesses to this, or is this something they pieced together afterwards?
No, they found he had not been, you know, they found him up on this cliffside with puncture wounds. And so a lot of channels and a lot of people had been talking about it and saying this and that. And I had kind of reached out to a person that lived in Knott County, Kentucky, and he went to school with Corey's mom and knew the dad and knew the EMT person, knew the responding police officer. And the mom was told there was, I believe, one interview with the mom on national news. And I was told that she was told to shut up and just don't talk about the case. And I interviewed this guy on my channel about the case and about how the community was. And I was concerned about the mom, this, that, and, you know, he said, maybe I can get her to come on your channel and talk about, you know, everything. And I was like, no, I don't want to bring anything up, but I just want her to know that nobody's forgotten about her kid. You know, like, it's almost like this little boy was attacked. The case is still an open case. It's not a closed case, and nobody talks about it anymore. Nobody's looking into it anymore. So I just want people to know that these people who are attacked with no answers are still thought about.
What is your instinct in terms of the reaction to it then? Because is there a sort of general apathy towards the ideas you have because people don't take them seriously, or do they take them seriously and they're attempting to sort of cover them up?
Well, I was my parents are the biggest skeptics in the world. They are vanilla ice cream. And my mom had said something about, you know, what are you doing? And I was just like, well, you know, I said, listen to this. I said, and I hate to bring up the case in Tennessee, but it's the one case that has piqued my interest, and it drives me insane actually to think about it. But I said, just let's take out Bigfoot, take out Dogman, take out any kind of paranormal out of that equation, right? You've got two people that were savagely attacked and torn up in the same exact location, in a location that's kind of the dilapidated part of town, very rural, very, you know, isolated from the upper city part. I'm like, take all that apart, and then so you take the creatures out, but don't have any mountain lion sightings. There's been very, very rare black bear sightings. A pack of wild dog, and there are no wild dog in America. Wild dog is a species of animal that lives in Africa, and the media tends to love to use wild dog attack. Well, we don't have African dogs in America, so how are they, you know, coming here and chewing up people? But you take that out, and you're left with two people torn up, no explanation, both open cases, and a guy who Charles Owensby is not even heard of anymore. You can't even. I reached out to him on Facebook, and his Facebook thing is gone now. There's no mention of him in the news. I'd called Cobb County Sheriff's Office and said, "What's going on with Charles Owensby? Last time we heard from him or anything about him in the news was September of 2021. Is he still in jail?" No, he's out of jail. What's going on with the case? We can't talk about it anymore. So I'm like, with that weirdness going on, you're telling me there's an open investigation on dog attacks? No.
Well, I mean, I noticed that you'd obviously listened to our previous guest on Bigfoot, and I suppose he has you at a disadvantage in the sense they have some footage, the Peterson film.
I've I've talked to people about that footage.
Well,
A friend
Dub in the
Bob-
sorry, one of our audience members, Dub it's called Dub, he's in the chat, and he's asked, what do you think about that Peterson film? Do you think it's genuine or not? Are you sold on it?
Yeah, I think that footage is legit. I'm friends with a woman named Claudia Ackley, who is friends with Bob Gemlin, who took the film. And she had put me in touch with him. I'd briefly spoken to him because he's very old now. He has Alzheimer's and stuff. And I think that is probably the most 9 people claiming that they were in the suit. You know, where's the suit now? If that really happened, why aren't they bringing us the suit? You know, to show us, hey, this is what was worn. You know, I feel that is really compelling evidence that there are creatures out there that we don't see very often. I agreed with his like lava tube thing. Another thing is with you, I think you had said trees. There was a gentleman. I live in the Adirondacks in New York, so it's a very huge. It's one of the biggest state parks in our country. And there was a guy named Tom Mezek who disappeared. He was a hunter. And it's a very strange case. FBI came and was involved in the search and stuff like that. FBI doesn't get involved in cases like that unless state lines were crossed or tender-aged youth. This guy was 82. I believe that he was looking for things. When you're looking for a missing person, you're looking for evidence on the ground. You're not looking up. And I believe that these creatures use the trees to their advantage.
This is excellent. It sounds like something that may one day be perfect fodder for a quality horror movie. But Jeff, I appreciate you coming on and speaking to us. Is there anything you'd like to point people towards before I let you get back to what's left of your afternoon? Where can they find more of your content?
My channel is called Dogman Encounters with Jeffrey Nadolny, and I've narrated 3 audiobooks. They were written by Tom Lyons, who has investigated these attacks and encounters, called Dogman Frightening Encounters Volume 1, 2, and 3, and they are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes.
That's excellent, Jeff. Thank you very much for your time, and all the best with your investigations.
Stephen, thank you. It was great meeting you, and have a wonderful.
You too. Thank you.
What an amazing experience that was. But right now, what you're going to see next is me interviewing someone that I honestly do look up to. Someone that researches and shares his research on his YouTube channel. And if you don't know who Shaun is and you have not listened to any of his stuff, he really does cover a lot of very interesting things. He's got a lot of stuff for everybody. And the thunder just struck behind me. Let's get into this. I have a special guest with me. I have Shaun Attwood, who I've been a huge fan of for a very long time. Shaun, how are you?
Jeff, it's an honor to be on your channel. I'm a huge fan of yours. And, you know, from what I know about what you've been through in your life, it's just so inspirational. And what you told me earlier, how you got this channel and your health was down. They said you had 10 years left to live. And then you suddenly started to gain your weight back through building a community and having this mission on YouTube. That is a miracle, man. I'm blown away by your story.
I appreciate that. I to be honest, when I joined the community, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a couple of experiences with paranormal, saw something when I was younger, and I didn't want to kind of follow everybody's footsteps, so I kind of just started doing my own thing. I've watched you for a long, long time, and I've been a huge admirer of yours just because of the things that you give back to the community. You really have an inspirational story yourself. Very brilliant teenager, and then, you know, you had a really bad time when you were, I'd say, what, middle-aged, somewhere around there, and then bam, out comes the Shaun Attwood that we know and love today. Can you kind of briefly tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you to the YouTube community?
Yeah, so I went off the rails in my 20s after being a diligent worker in the stock market, and during the dot-com bubble, you know, I made a couple of million, so that added to my sense of ego. I'm living in Arizona. My ego became as big as the Grand Canyon, and I quit going into the office and working slow and steady progress. You know, I'd been following the stock market since I was 14, investing since I was 16. I abandoned all my slow and steady progress to throw rave parties and import ecstasy. And because I was in my 20s, no common sense, no emotional maturity, high testosterone, I just wanted to have fun and party, but it was misguided. And years later, I saw the harm that drugs cause to people. And that's why I go into schools and do all these talks now in the hope other young people won't make my mistakes. So in my 20s then, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. I come over there because I got aunts. You know, I'm out of England originally, banned from America for life now. And my aunt's houses were my base to get hired into the stock market. Did 5 years, 6 years. It was like Wolf of Wall Street kind of environment, power sales meetings, like drill sergeant guys telling us what to do. You're only as big as your numbers at this border for the month. Smiling brokers make the most money. Lunches for wimps. If you're having a lunch, other brokers are calling, all that stuff. So I was thrown in the deep end of it's like a baptism of fire of these feisty New York Italian telesales guys who were snorting cocaine off their desks and going to strip clubs every night. I'm thinking this is normal, you know, fresh out of university. This is what the business world is like. So when I made sufficient capital, I quit that. I was day trading the dot-com bubble, made a couple of million, but greed and ego and everything else took over. And I thought, right, I could just abandon all this slow and steady progress and start making money from the rave scene. And I was throwing raves. And then I saw the profit potential of getting the pills, bringing the pills in. And that's when greed took over, and I had to face the consequences when the SWAT team came, May 16th, 2002.
Yeah. It was.
You asked how the YouTube channel came about. So yeah. Going back to that then, in the jail, I think it was 2004. So I asked the guard how they got away with the conditions. I'm not saying jail should be easy, but this was Sheriff Joe Arpaio. We're talking America's toughest sheriff. Dead rats in the foods, cockroaches crawling over us at night times.
How on earth?
Guards murdering mentally ill prisoners. And you can check that out. And check if you want to Google that. Brian Crenshaw, Scott Norberg. They killed a blind guy, the guards, and they paid out about 50 million in lawsuits at that point. So I said to the guard, "How do you guys get away with all this?" And the guard said, "The world has got no idea what goes on in here, and the public doesn't give a shit about prisoners." So a golf pencil, tiny pencil, sharpened on the door, I started to write everything down. And my aunt smuggled what I wrote out of maximum security Madison Street Jail. This is 2004. Typed them up, emailed them to my family in England. My family originally were from in between Liverpool and Manchester in the northwest. They put them online as a blog, John's Jail Journal, Jon, not my real name, because my mum was terrified.
Right.
She knew about all these people who'd been murdered by the guards. So we didn't want, the guards to find out I was doing this. She didn't want us to do it at all, but we talked her into doing it just with my name change. So I didn't think, anyone would click onto the blog. And the Guardian newspaper ran excerpts, and the BBC, big media entity out here, ran excerpts about me living with the cockroaches. And the media's never stopped since then. And that was almost 20 years ago. So the blog started to go viral, and my dad started the YouTube channel in 2007, and I got released in December 2007. So it was in preparation for my release. I think one of the first videos we did on it was how to survive Sheriff Joe Arpaio's jail. So I managed to start the first prison blog. I managed to start the first YouTube channel. And it came about because I wanted to get the conditions changed for the guys I left behind, because previously I'd thought prisoners lock them up, throw away the key.
Yeah.
The rapists, murderers, serial killers. That's what the media reports all the time, is extreme crimes on one side. And then on the other side, they say how easy they've got it. They've got PlayStations, gourmet food, luxuries. And it keeps the public hating on prisoners.
Yeah.
And it's a scam. It's a scam so that the government can get away with the horrors that they're getting away with. So at the peak of the war on drugs, and people can Google this, the highest arrest category in the history of criminal justice was weed possession, almost 1 million arrests a year. So when I got in there, I saw the average arrest was a black kid or a Mexican kid with some weed, not a dealer, weed possession, getting 2 to 5 years because they had prior convictions, so the sentences are aggravated. And then these private prisons are getting $60,000 a year per person. And it's drug and gang infested mayhem. There's no rehabilitation. They give them $50 on the gates. They have a nice day. That person, if they were a weed head, they've come in, they've been recruited by the neo-Nazi gang, the Aryan Brotherhood. So they've got swastikas and Hitler tattoos now. They've got a criminal record. They've gone from being a weed head to injecting heroin. Most of the prisoners were injecting heroin.
Jesus.
A load of them had hepatitis C, yellow jaundice skin, teeth rotten out. It's really sad. And it's by design, because if you give that person $50, and if it's a white guy, they're now a neo-Nazi with a criminal record and a heroin addiction. How on earth are they going to function in society? Within 6 months, they're right back. And I saw that as well. They just come right back, revolving door, $60,000, $60,000, $60,000. And those contracts now are in the tens of billions a year. So when that guard said to me, the world has got no idea what's going on in here, I said, I'm going to try and change that. And hopefully, my blog and my YouTube videos have woke some people up to. Because I understand why people don't understand prison. I didn't understand it because of the media. And I think people don't understand it till their kid calls them and says, Mom and Dad, I'm in a cell with a guy who's got a padlock in his sock, who's threatening to rape me. I need $50,000 to bail out. Can you get me a lawyer? I got busted with some weed. They've seized your car. Until they get that call, people don't give a shit.
No. And
a lot of them.
You really have changed a lot of people's perspective on prison and what it's like, because I remember, just seeing like on Netflix where you see, like English jails or Swedish jails and this and that. But hearing your horror stories in Arizona and how you were treated. I mean, you were a white collar criminal treated like a hardened blue collar criminal. And it was absolutely disgusting.
Well, I did deserve punishment. I just want to make that clear. Yes. And I was importing ecstasy and putting people on that road of drug use. So I did deserve to be punished. Now, I thought I was just keeping the party going, getting everybody high, the rave scene, dancing all night long and that kind of stuff. I didn't see the horror of what drug use led to until I got in the jail.
Right.
So the whole day in the jail just revolves around getting the drugs in. Primarily heroin, and then secondary it was crystal meth, and now it's spice as well. You've even got the staff members bringing it in. That's the main way it's brought in. You've got visitors bringing in. So these guys then who've got hepatitis C, yellow jaundice skin, teeth rotting out, the livers are getting eaten up by it. They know they're going to die.
Yeah.
But all they care about is getting the drugs in and getting high. And I'm going to get to the root cause of that in a minute. So I saw the horror. The road of drug use is very long. You start out over here where it's glitz, it's glamour, the pleasure's high, the pain's low. But every time you take drugs, the pleasure goes down a little bit and the side effects rise. And those guys, the side effects was above the pleasure, and they couldn't stop. They knew they were going to die. They knew it was slow suicide and they couldn't stop. So I was ashamed. Now, living with people in the deep end of drug addiction for 6 years gave me the best education in the psychology of addiction I could possibly have had. When I was a kid, I was told a heroin addict is someone who lives under a bridge. They go out snatching granny's purses and stealing cars and burgling innocent people. They're like little trolls. Lock them up, throw away the key. Once I actually was living with these people and asking them their life stories, because people really opened up to me. And to this day, I've carried that forward into my true crime podcast. You get these guys come in, big tough guys, and they'll tell me things that they wouldn't tell other people. People really open up to me. I think I'm a good listener. or I cultivated my listening skills in prison as a survival mechanism or something. But I've learned that the root cause of the vast majority of crime is childhood trauma and paedophilia in particular. And these heroin users, they're never given the tools to deal with getting molested as kids. No one helps them, or they're thrown away onto the streets. Then they get into crime to support this drug addiction, because heroin is the drug that takes you out of your mental space where you're facing that trauma. So they've got these demons from the trauma, and they're feeding the demons with the heroin and blocking the trauma out. And it's really sad. I heard this so many times, and now I'm hearing it so many times on my true crime podcast. I am convinced that childhood trauma is one of the root causes of crime, and the government, they don't address the root causes of anything.
Yeah.
They just pretend to be tough on crime to get votes. Otherwise, the whole system will be completely overhauled. And thank God the public of America voted to legalize and decriminalize weed, because that's a major part of the problem.
Yeah.
Is the black market in weed and all that money going to gangsters and cartels. So hearing these sad stories then, a third of the prisoners couldn't read or write. More than half of my friends in prison were soldiers, come back from wars, PTSD, didn't get any help, so got on street drugs and crime and ended up in prison. I had a good education. I had a loving family. And all these people that I'm living with, they didn't have either of them. So I felt doubly guilty for committing my crimes. It wasn't through necessity. It wasn't through poverty. I had more money than common sense. So I started to help the prisoners. I was reading their legal paperwork. I was teaching the Mexicans how to write home in Spanish. Aryan Brotherhood prison gang had a problem with that. They wanted to get me smashed for helping another race because it's a violation of the rules of racial division in Arizona state. And then my cellmate, who was a crystal meth chemist at the time, he intervened with the Aryan Brotherhood, and I was allowed to keep helping the Mexicans. And then finally, I asked the guard, how do you get away with all this stuff? And he said, the world has got no idea. And that's when I started the blog. That was in 2004. And the blog led to the YouTube channel. And it just continues to grow from there. And I feel blessed for having these opportunities, for building communities like you of such good people who've just followed me and supported me through all the nasty campaigns to take me down. And those campaigns particularly began when we started exposing elite predators.
Yes. That brings me into something. I actually did a video. I met a subscriber of mine who was a former Jehovah's Witness growing up, and he told me about the dark child abuse and just a whole kind of sex ring of children in the Jehovah's Witness church. I did about an hour-long video about that, a lot of research with him, and I got some flack. I actually didn't expect to get as much flack as I did, but I had a lot of people who were like, that's not how we are, and this and that, and I was like, whoa, okay. You kind of nailed it on the head. Is childhood trauma and drug addiction go hand in hand. You then started to look at, after like your prison stories with helping, and then people turning and helping the community, you kind of started to look at like the elite, like Jimmy Savile and Epstein and stuff like that, which kind of then, I guess, what people call conspiracy, but I call truth. You got some flack on that, a lot of flack actually. I think
I'm still getting it. My internet service provider sent me an email saying just a couple of weeks ago, you've had an extremely rare denial of service attack, and you need to contact us immediately. So this isn't through emails or links. They went through the hackers went through my internet service provider to take my Wednesday night live stream down called Attwood Unleashed. We do a Wednesday night live stream. This happened. They tried to knock my internet off, and simultaneously I got reports, notifications from YouTube, Google, saying that they were trying to take out of Indonesia. Hackers out of Indonesia were trying to take my entire YouTube channel down again. They did get control of my YouTube channel about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And they were broadcasting. They did a live stream, had over 100,000 people on it. Crypto shite, and it took YouTube a couple of days to kick them out. I knew it was about to happen. I got on the phone with a live chat with the YouTube person, and I said, I've just been hacked. You've got to stop this right away. It took an hour for them to take all my information. By the time they took all my information, the hackers were already live streaming the crypto shite. And that was a nightmare. I lost about 15,000 subscribers over that, which YouTube couldn't reinstate. So that kind of stalled my channel for the last few months. But now we've got our Jimmy Savile documentary just gone up this week. It's turbocharging things back up again.
You've been working on that for a while. Now, with the Epstein thing, wasn't your channel threatened to be like taken down if you didn't stop talking about that? Or
it was taken down twice.
Yeah.
And the reason given is cyberbullying.
Okay. All right.
And they don't elaborate. They don't tell you specifically what you said.
Yeah, you didn't say anything. You were speaking the truth. It wasn't like you were making any kind of lies, or you weren't putting words into anybody's mouths. You were just speaking facts.
We're a true crime channel, and we were reporting on the biggest true crime story in the world.
Yep.
But our channel came like the go-to place because we'd interviewed everybody on it: experts, journalists, survivors, authors, cops, you name it. Anyone close to that case, even intelligence agency people like Ari Ben Manesh, we'd interviewed, and we had 60 million views on the channel. This was when I was at about 500,000 subs at that point, and that was half the channel, was those 60 million views.
Yeah.
So we got terminated twice, but God bless the viewers and the supporters, because they bombarded YouTube with messages. It was trending on Twitter for days. Freedom of speech, reinstate Attwood's channel.
Yep.
He's trying to do good in the world, and thanks to those people, I believe that it was reinstated. But the thing is, Jeff, you would think that if you're exposing people who harm kids, the whole world would be behind you.
Yeah, it'd be all ears, but no.
But no, dark forces arise to prevent you from speaking out. And we've identified 4 different groups, and we know there's probably a lot more groups. So the 4 different groups we've identified that have come after us are legal teams for people who are, I won't say names, but high up in royalty, high up in politics. I'm just gonna leave that one at that. Legal teams and PR teams for those people. They've probably presented the most danger to us. Then you've got hackers. Then you've got trolls. Then you've got people who are in competition with me who are just jumping on top of campaigns against you to try and knock you out, because they feel they can take your place. And a lot of the people I've helped actually fall into that 4th category. People I've helped for years, just as they rose up, they got so big on YouTube, egos got big. Thought, F this guy now, we can just stab him in the back.
Yeah.
Try and rise up at his expense. So we've seen that as well. So they're the 4 groups that we've identified, but we suspect there are more groups, foreign groups related to intelligence, shadowy groups that we can't put our finger on, but they're the 4 that we have identified, and the campaigns have been absolutely heinous.
Yeah. I talk a lot about cover-ups and different things, and I always say, like, the media is controlled by big banks, big pharma, the oil, and the war machine, and they feed us 80% of our news that we get, and it's pretty disgusting. Now, when you said, I'm not going to ask you to identify anybody, but when you said the first party there, they were the biggest threat. Were there any like physical threats made at you ever throughout this?
Oh, I've had death threats. I've had people show up at my property. I had someone I helped threaten that he was on his way to my property. Yeah, you know, if you're over the target, it's the nature, isn't it, of it, that you're going to get those kind of threats.
Yeah.
And you know, in Arizona, going through the jail, there's daily violence and stuff like that. So these punks can't intimidate me after I've been through the situations I've been through.
Yeah.
It's water off a duck's back, but I do appreciate the opportunity that YouTube provides. It is life changing, like you've experienced yourself. They have their rules, and I'm more than happy to play by their rules.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I agree. I mean, I've gotten, like you talk about certain things. I got a not a copyright strike, but it was a community guideline strike or something. And I was just discussing like the Rothschilds and the Jehovah's
stay away from anything to do with our family.
Yep. And it was
or
like
anything to do with the country that they're from.
Yep.
Because you will get labeled a certain thing and you will lose your channel.
Yep. And I deleted the video. I was like, I'm all done with that. I'll just keep my mouth shut on that subject and kind of work my way around things.
Yes.
Now you've had a couple of great books out there. One that I'm going to be buying on my Kindle after we speak is the Clinton Bush CIA conspiracy, and I've kind of scanned through a little bit of it on Kindle, and I'm looking forward to reading that. But you've got so many other books out there. You've got cartel books, this Epstein. How do you have time to write all these books and then continue to do all of your shows?
Well, Wildman, God bless him, called me the robot. So, you know, even as I was eating my dinner just before I was speaking to you, as I was heating my dinner up, I was reviewing an audio book that I'm about to publish for somebody. And then once my dinner was cooked, I started to, you know, I'm eating that, doing a bit of research. So I just try not to waste any time.
Yep.
I just try to make every bit of the day as productive as possible. But that can lead to an unbalanced lifestyle. And when I was in my 20s and I did that, it caused me to melt down. So I have done my yoga today. I've learned not to put so much pressure on me and be so goal orientated, and to just wake up and enjoy the day and just be in the present. And I imagine with you, with your, you know, what's it called again? PNH. With your PNH, I imagine that's given you a completely philosophical and stoic perspective of life.
I take advantage of every second that I get now. You know, you are an inspiration because I've got 3 audiobooks just from this channel that I've narrated and produced. And I'm working on writing my own book right now, doing another audiobook. So it's just trying to take advantage of as much time as I have. You know,
Jeff, when did they tell you had 10 years to live?
That was 8 years ago.
And that's because your weight was on a bad trajectory.
113. Yep.
So now that your weight is back up, have they revised that?
My doctor hasn't really said anything. He just said, keep doing what you're doing. And as long as you feel good, we feel good. I have a lot of issues with my neuropathy. I have really bad neuropathy in my legs.
What does that mean, Jeff? I don't know what that means.
Neuropathy is nerve damage in your legs. So I have a hard time walking some days and stuff like that, which sucks because I like to go outside and do some hiking and, you know, take my camera with me and do videos out there.
And you're a single dad of 2 kids, so you got to move around a lot.
Yeah. So I just got notification that I've got about 10 more minutes left with you on my Zoom call for some reason. Because I have Zoom Basic. So I'll just ask a couple more questions if that's all right.
Go for it, Jeff. Yeah.
So during the search for the truth, you've had faced pushbacks. Now, you'd mentioned Attwood Unleashed. I'm a huge fan of that. Why? Because you discuss everything from secret society to Bigfoot to UFOs. what got you from here to here?
One word, Ash.
Yes. He's a great addition to you guys.
You know, I'm the kind of person, Jeff, that people don't come in and out of my life. I keep the same people around. The people I'm working with, I stay in loyal, very well bonded relationships with them, you know, for as long as it lasts. I don't terminate these relationships. Same with my friendships. I'm a friend for life with people, and I feel blessed again because I've got such a fantastic team of people around me, working with me. We support each other. We go through the ups and downs together. And Ash, he's unique.
Yeah,
He's unique. He's you know, he's working out of a different continent in the Philippines on a completely different time zone. He's up in the middle of the night moderating Attwood Unleashed, our 4-hour weekly live stream. And it's Ash who has encouraged me to branch out into the more thought-provoking, eclectic, esoteric range of subjects and guests versus, you know, our perennial true crime podcasts, and the clips and the regular stuff we put out in that genre. And I've got to say, I used to really enjoy listening to Art Bell Coast to Coast.
Yes.
When I was in Sheriff Joe's jail on my little headset. I think that's where I first heard David Icke speak, was on that, actually. And I feel it's a great vibe, isn't it, to have?
Yeah, it is.
It's so Bigfoot, UFOs in one show. It's fascinating.
You can tell that you like it because, you know, you're very lack of a better word, very studious or in tune when you're doing your true podcast, your true crime podcast. But when you're doing Attwood Unleashed, you're just a whole different. You've kind of you've unleashed, really, and it's great. I love it. It was a welcome part of the show. And
thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome. I love it. I mean,
and I learned so much from speaking to these variety of people. And the thing is, we get people on that have got different viewpoints from us.
Yeah.
And sometimes some of the viewers are like, sometimes the viewers think if you have someone on, you're endorsing that viewpoint, which is not the case. The only way you can learn, and the best way to learn, is for people that you don't agree with.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I've met some of the greatest people that I don't that I disagree with, but I'll have a great conversation after the interview, you know, and it's really fun YouTube's really, I've met so many great people, and it's been a life changer for me. So, I want to talk to you for a few minutes after the interview, so I'm going to kind of end the interview now. Shaun, it was great to have you on.
Wow. You know, I could watch that video with Shaun a lot. I really do. I admire Shaun. And, you know, I just wanted to share this with you guys because to me, it is a milestone in my I guess my YouTube career, getting to meet someone that I really do look up to. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that keeps the channel growing and going, and honestly what gives people a chance to share their experiences and theories judgment-free, just simply treated with the respect we all deserve. Everyone stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, our pets, our family, and friends. These creatures are real, they are out there, and they are definitely dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.